Alright, here we are. Welcome everyone and welcome to not only 2025 here at WR, but also welcome to our Season 19. This is PC Tier 4, where tonight it's time for Round 7. We've gone to China. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky, and joining me in the commentary box is Jivodar. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty decent considering it's the first race in 2025. Obviously, we had Christmas break and everything. Everyone is well rested and recharged for the final four races, sorry, of the season. And China, obviously, it's a great track for some people. Some not like it very much, but it is a really exciting track. It's got basically everything. You have a really long straight for overtaking opportunity with a hairpin at the end, of course. You have twisty sections, you have fast and slow speed corners, you have everything. What more could you ask for? This is basically like the rip-off version of Silverstone. I like it.
Yeah, you could definitely say that in a sense. But I think for us in the commentary box and also for you guys watching here on YouTube, it will be more interesting to watch the race than for some drivers just to race. I don't think it's a track that's practiced all that much, especially because it's been out of the running for a couple of years. Still nice track, definitely to drive on, and we're going to see how all of our competitors are going to do. Just a quick reminder of our standings. I'll quickly run the top 5 through you, and also the top 3 of our last race, which was in Hungary, but that was back in 2024. That was 3 weeks ago, where it was Dennis Langrock, your championship leader, picking up your race win, his second race win of the season. It was a second place for Kevin West, his first podium, now moving him up into the top 5 in the standings, and a third place for Steven Vasso, also his best position of the season so far. He's current 12th in the standings with 23 points. Further up in the standings though, Takubi sadly won't be here tonight, but he's on 43 points in 5th. 1 point ahead is Kevin West, newcomer here in the top 5. In P3, rejoining once again is Oliver Knott. He's raced 2 times so far, and both of the times gone to race wins. Let's see what he has in store for us tonight. Then 6 points ahead of him with 56 points, it's Meow. And then 45 points ahead with 101 points, his Williams teammate Dennis Langrock. 2 race wins, 2 second places, a third place, and then a 15th place in round 3. But so far, Jivodar, Dennis has had an amazing season.
Yeah, obviously. Last time out in Hungary, if you remember, it was a whole 3 weeks ago. Whoa, felt pretty long. Yeah, definitely enjoyed the Christmas break though. But yeah, last time out in Hungary, he absolutely dominated the race. That was the 17-second win margin. That is the biggest win margin I think I've seen in the Tier 4 since like 4 seasons ago, I believe. I'm not sure, but he definitely showed that there's a reason he's leading the championship by a considerable margin. And he can't wrap up the championship here, but he certainly can do it next week if he has a good result here. And he's definitely looking at it as his championship.
Yeah, at this point, there's a few people that are still competitors for him, but a good result tonight might cement his place a little further up in the standings. From the top 5 drivers, only number 5 won't be here, Takubi. The top 4 will all be here, so Kevin West, Oliver Knott is making his 3rd appearance, and of course Meow and championship leader Dennis Langrock himself. We're quickly going to go to our in-game view so you can see what is all happening here. We have 13 drivers with us tonight. So that's Mr. Pike, Hazit Meow, Isfan Tamasi, Pikarchix, and then it's Joel Lindstrom, Nicolino, Dennis Langrock, Herman Polyakov, Alberto Barros, Steven Vasso, Kevin West, and Oliver Knott. And Jivodar, who do you think is going to surprise us the most tonight?
Fun fact, yesterday I had a German league along with some people from here, but with Dennis Langrock. Obviously, I'm a Dennis Langrock merchant. He's gonna win, of course. I did race with him. It was pretty fun. And yeah, I think a podium would be pretty decent for Stefan Vasso. He's actually coming from a team change. He did decide to switch from a virtual and join NLR during the Christmas break. So obviously it's a fresh start. We'll see what he can do. Great result last time out, obviously with his first podium of the season. I think Dennis would win, even though it will be close. But a podium is definitely on the cards for drivers like Oliver Knott and Herman Poliakov, for example. I think Oliver Knott has a very good chance of being on the podium. Not on the top step, because he's a little bit washed on that track. I've spoken with him. But yeah, maybe he can surprise us. Who knows?
Well, it would be very good if he can surprise us because he is currently 51 points behind your championship leader. So that's currently outside of the 2-race margin for him to still be up in contention. And worst come to worst, he finishes outside the points. Dennis Langrock wins the race, and that means that Oliver Knott is virtually out of the championship fight. Definitely needs to score some points tonight, but as you already said, Sivudar, we are expecting something off of him. We're now going to go on board with the man who's taking a very tight line at the start of his lap and taking himself through that long right-hander. That right-hander that never seems to stop. It looks like he's nailing that pretty nicely. Quite a long track too, 5.4 kilometers, 16 corners. And we're now making our way into the end of Sector 1, which he manages to round off in a nice 23.6 before hard braking into right, taking a lot of curb there actually. As he resumes his run. Some drivers up ahead, those will be ghosted out, hopefully won't bother Oliver all too much, but looks like he won't be bothered with that at all. Now moving through that twisty second sector, seems to outbrake himself slightly there on the left-hander, but gets a good run down to the end of the second sector, which puts himself in a 50.7. Those are sector times to watch for later runs as well. Now on to the back straight, that long back straight, pretty much a kilometer long if it's not just a little bit longer. It will prove for plenty of overtakes during the race, and Oliver Knott is trying to use quite a bit of that ERS here, just leaving a tad bit for when he's going to go on that main straight. Now hard braking, good hard right, takes a lot of inner curb there, but does so nicely. Slide oversteer on exit and making his way to turn 16, final corner of the track. Don't pick up track limits here. A little bit safe through there, but his first run is a 1:30.059, but I think Zivudar, we're gonna see some 129s tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I expect both to be about a 29.5. It's a rough estimate, considering I've seen what Dennis Langrock can do, and he can do a 0.5. If he nails it, it would be a 0.4 though. So we'll see what the other drivers can do to match that, as his pace does look to be great from the start of the qualifying. We'll see what if anyone else can really match that. His teammate Meow comes across the line, it's a 31.1. Hoelenstrom does go into P4. Pikachu into P3 with 30.3. No one's gotten close to Dennis and Oliver so far, but considering it's the bankers and everyone is sort of trying to just get a baseline in, I don't really expect drivers to be pushing to the limit just yet. I have seen much faster times than this, and yeah, they're probably all just going safe just to get a lap on the board, and then you can obviously build on that foundation and get yourself a nice qualifying result. Some people have left it out a bit late for his first runs, in particular Stefan Vasso, who's now through the long straight that just doesn't seem to end. If you're a driver and you've driven this track, you know the feeling of that straight. It just goes on and on. It's never ending, basically, until you get to that hairpin. Oni exit runs nice and wide using all of the track. Whatever ERS he's got left through the last corner. It's a very high commit, high reward, and it does go into P3 with a 30.285. And that is a pretty nice banker for Stefan Vasso. Obviously, first race here since he joined NLR. We'll see what his teammate Herman Poliakov can do. Well, team organization teammate. Not very in-game. But yeah, through the start of Sector 2, it's this really twisty left-right that the first part, it is flat, but in the second one, you do have to lift it. There is no braking, you just lift. if you have a good setup, you can go almost flat out, but that is really, really optimistic. It's a 50.9 split the end of second sector, which is not particularly great. As it stands, you would put him about P5, I'd say, but he has got a lot more ERS than others, saved for the straight, so maybe he can claw back a bit of time and get himself into P3 through the really long straight on towards the hairpin, braking at the 100-meter board. Oh, a little bit of a rear lock through there. Didn't really seem that nice, but you know, drifting through the hairpin still can work. Through the last corner, runs a little bit wide, and yeah, it is P6, but he's definitely had quite a lot of mistakes in Sector 3 that he can gain a lot of time on.
Yeah, we're currently looking at some more drivers that are exiting pit lane, and Kevin West is the first one that will start his second Flyers. Currently in P10 with a 30.8, but we saw Mr. Pike earlier lose a lot of time in that final sector. Was a 10th quicker, actually, than what Herman Polyakov was just able to do, so would have been on for a 30.4, but only managed to do a 30.8, so there is definitely more in the tank for Mr. Pike later. Also, Oliver Nutt, the man who we spectated earlier on, is already out. So is Alberto Barros and Miao. So 4 drivers currently out on track for an outlap, and more drivers about to leave the pit lane. I believe that is the Ferrari fighter Joel Lindstrom or Istvan Tomasi that is now leaving pit lane. And that will be updated momentarily. This Joel Lindstrom indeed, who we are going to see in a moment. But yeah, after seeing the first few runs, I think there's a couple favorites that we already can point out right away as Jivudar, and that's Dennis and Oliver, who, in my opinion, seem to be the 2 quickest drivers that we have this season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason one is the championship leader by a long shot and the other has a 100% win rate. Kinda makes sense. So we see now Oliver Knott make his way through the first sector. This really long right-hander. You really gotta keep up the minimum speed to carry as much speed onto the exit as possible, using up a little bit of overtake to get a little bit more acceleration out of the car. And through the exit of turn 4, I believe, he's matched his personal best through sector 1, so he's definitely gonna look to try and improve here through the really twisted left right, using up the curves for rotation, which certainly is a risk if your right height doesn't allow you to. You can't just spin out of control, as it is really easy, but he has nailed it, and he's a 10th and a half up on his personal best. And that is looking like he will be the first one to go into the 1-minute 20s as it stands. On towards the long back straight on sector 3. Just gotta wait a little bit because it's just way too long of a straight to commentate on. On the curb, flicks it nicely, gets good rotation on the exit. On towards the last corner on the 50-meter board. Gets it pretty nicely and across the line he goes. And it is a 129.834. Great lap from him. And that is going to put him on provisional pole by about 2/10, which is great. But obviously, just now, Dennis Langrock has started his second lap. So we'll see if he can match Oliver through the first sector. He's marginally up on his personal best. And just a tad bit slower than Oliver for the first sector, but there could be just a wing gap difference. You know, from experience, on China you can run lower wings and still be fast. It's more about the balance of the wing, not as much what level of wings you're running. You could be running 50-50 and it could work. You could be running 40-40 and it would work. It's really just about how you feel about the car. Wing gap is way more important for stability. And through the last sector it goes. I believe the Mercedes in front is on his out lap, or in lap, sorry. So hopefully he doesn't get held up. But through the hairpin he goes, clips the curve for extra rotation. Great there. On towards the last corner, flicks the wheel in one smooth motion. Across the line he goes. and it is a 129.7, a tenth quicker than Oliver North. He certainly put the throttle down here. See if anyone can be able to match him, as they currently have half a second gap to P3, which is insane.
That's currently quite a gap indeed, but it looks like Pekarczyk will have something to say about that. He puts that car up in P3, but only 2,000s quicker than Steven Vasso. We saw Steven Vasso had aborted his lap time. Joel Lindstrom, I think, has gotten the lap time in already. He's currently not on for a flyer. For Hazit, it seems like he might be just about to start his second run. So let's see how that sector time is going to look like. Currently have more drivers out on track. Herman Poliakov, Miao, Nicolino, Mr. Pike, and Istvan Tomasi, who's the only driver yet to set a lap time. And through the first sector, it shows that Hazit currently is not on for an improvement. Herman seems to be struggling a little bit with ERS already. Miao dove it into the pits. Nicolino just across the line now, and he goes into P8. It's a pretty decent run for him after all. Mr. Pike is up in the first sector, and that's a mighty first sector. That's a 23.4. That is almost 2/10 quicker than Dennis Langrock was on his best. And look at that, 4/10 is Mr. Pike now up on his own personal best. And that was already quite close to the front runners. He threw it away in that last sector, last lap round, but he's on for a pretty good run. Now down that long straight. But Mr. Pike is setting himself up for a great run. This should be a 129 at the very least, but he needs to nail the hairpin here. Breaks at the 1 meter board. This time nails it here nicely. Take a little bit more risk into turn 16, and this could be a belter. He's now coming through. That seems to be quite clean. He now comes across the line. Still lose a bit of time in the final sector, but it's good enough for a 130.129, and that's P3 for him. But I think, Jivodar, Mr. Pike's using some more ERS than the other drivers in Sector 1 and 2, which he then loses in return in Sector 3, where he doesn't have as much as the others.
I mean, to be fair, I've been going on board with him, and most of that time loss seems to be on the exit of the long right-hander on towards the straight. I believe it's called, I think it's turn 13. Right at the start of Sector 3. And Dennis and Oliver just so confident on the throttle on the exit. They put the throttle down much earlier than Mr. Pike. And this is mainly where he loses that much time in Sector 3. ERS is not really that important, considering they all have quite a lot. I think Mr. Pike did have about 5-10% less, but that's not worth 3/10 of a second, at the very least. In fact, never mind, it's a 0.7 last and the other do a 0.2, so it's half a second that he loses in Sector 3, which is mental. That has to be a little bit higher wings, which would explain why he's so fast in Sector 1 and 2. But to lose that much, it really just has to be that exit, because your exit is so important. It's such a long straight. If you carry just a tad bit more speed on the exit, it's gonna carry out through the entire straight, and potentially a 2 km/h difference can gain you a 10.5, maybe 2/10, which is really important around a track like this, where majority of the track is flat out. It's mostly just the exits that are really important here. And yeah, currently he needs to change something. There is no park firmness, so he can change something in the setup, maybe to give him a little bit more stability on the rear going through turn 13, which you really need a really good stable rear end of the car, because you don't want it sliding around. As Kevin West goes into P4, 30.2, it's a great lap from him, but suddenly I expected the grid to be a little bit faster than this. The only two who really met my expectations are Langrock and Oliver. If I gotta be honest, I can do that time. But yeah.
In the meantime, Miao is making his way on to the start-finish straight, and he's about to start his final run. For Kevin West, that was his qualifying run done, so he has to hope that not too many drivers are going to improve on his P4, as now more and more drivers are starting to exit pit lane. Just has it Nicolino, Herman Poliakov and Mr. Pike in there, with Nicolino just leaving it now as well. Miao then through the first sector. He's a half a tenth down on his own fastest lap, but more importantly, he's over a tenth down on his teammate and championship leader, Dennis Langrock, and that gap is 9 tenths. That is a mountain to climb for Meow, but perhaps he can make up some time in Sector 2, because I feel like he's lost quite a bit of time there to the other drivers. We're going to see now as he makes his way through the left-hander, and at the end of this mini straight, we're going to see if he's on for any improvement, but looks like he's losing more time. He's down a tenth already, and this is not looking good for Meow, and I don't think there's much more in the tank for him, Zivadar.
Yeah, definitely. The car just seems to be a little bit out of balance. You saw him in turn 1. When he turned in, he had to do a correction and go on the throttle again because he was gonna cut turn 2 entirely. He just seems to be a little bit out of balance. And, you know, on a track like this, balance is the most important thing. If you've got that wrong, the setup is gonna feel horrible. And he decided to call it quits. And he's gonna have to do a mighty comeback in the race if he wants to keep his championship hopes up. Especially considering we've got the monsters out. Dennis Langrock and Oliver Knott. Who's gonna get pole position here? I genuinely think it's between these two. No one else has come close so far. Dennis Langrock, through the first sector, he has found half a tenth of an improvement, and he's certainly looking great. Oliver Knott is, I believe, matching him for the first sector so far. Yeah, pretty much. It's a tenth down, but there could be a wing difference. As through goes Dennis Langrock, the end of sector 2. Kept it nice and tidy so far, and he's kept that half a tenth that he got in sector 1. And it's certainly a great lap from Dennis Langrock so far that would pretty much secure his pole position, I'd say. But we'll see what Oliver Knott's done. And he's actually found 2 tenths basically in sector 2, and it's a great lap so far from Oliver Knott as well. Very close on the splits. Dennis is just marginally quicker at the end of sector 2, and I think sector 3 will be the deciding factor of who gets pole position here in round 7. Through the last corner he goes, really commits there, Dennis Langrock, and it has improved by a tenth, 129.647, great lap from him. Can Oliver Knott match that? Through the last corner he goes, full on commitment to try and secure it, but he doesn't manage. It is a tenth of Dennis, but it is pretty much him gonna be in P2. Stephen Vasso in P3, Pikashish in P4. Mr. Pike has... No, he's still on his lap actually. Can he try and get himself into the 129s? Yes, he can! P3 for... No, sorry, P4 for Mr. Pike. Great lap from him right there at the end. And that is one of the most exciting qualifying sessions I've seen in a while.
Well, it is more than enough for Dennis Langrock, though. He takes pole position by just over a tenth, but that just shows that Langrock and Oliver Knott are going to be the 2 drivers to beat here in the race at China tonight. And P3, it's Stephen Vasso, who had a podium last week out. He's 3 tenths off. Then it's Mr. Pike, followed by Pekarchik, Herman Polyakov, Istvan Tomasi, John Lindstrom, Kevin West has it in 10th. Then Alberto Barros, Nick Galino, and second in standings Meow in P13th and last so far. So not the quality that he was looking for. But to be honest, what we've seen from Meow so far this season, Zubadar, he's not been the greatest in qualifying. In the race, he hasn't really been so far up there either. But he's consistently making up places, scoring a lot of points, and that really has put him up so high up in the championship. A couple of good results, but mostly just scoring some points and just scrabbling them together and putting himself so far up in the standings as he is. As for Oliver Knott, I think he is looking to overtake him. But the big question is, how close can he get to Langrock? We're currently seeing that the game itself seems to be raining a little bit. At least it seems to be quite dark up ahead. But of course, we're going to have a lobby restart as you're used to from with us. So we're going to take a few minutes before we are going to get this race underway in its entirety. Well, now we know the drivers to watch out for. I think just further proves, Ivadar, they really have to be afraid of Langrock here tonight, because he is going to becoming dangerously close to clinching that title already.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it time and time again. He's a race merchant, and you saw if a race merchant gets P1 in quali, it's over. You saw what happened in Hungary. We'll see if Oliver North can stop him in the race, but he looks unstoppable right now. You know, he usually likes his race a bit more than quali, and you know, he's still pole by a 10th, which is great. And that's over the fastest and basically his only championship rival, I'd say. As Meow's gonna have a mountain to climb in the race. It's a Williams sandwich. Yeah, Meow is last, so he's really gonna have a lot of work to do in the race if he wants to keep his championship hopes up. So I think it's mainly in Oliver Knott to stop Langrock from extending that championship lead, but as it stands for in qualifying at least, it's not really gonna happen, I'd say. But obviously, race is long, anything can happen. Safety cars could appear, you know, any strategy games can impact the championship. Maybe someone's gonna try and do an undercut, and maybe there will be a crash or something. Safety cars, no one knows. But yeah, going through the race now, though, 28 laps, I believe it is, around the Shanghai International Circuit, about 150 kilometers race distance. So we'll see who can make up positions in the race. Obviously, the game really allows for quite aggressive overtaking in the race, so maybe those guys at the back can sort of work together and try and carve their way through the field. And we'll see what happens. It's gonna be an interesting race, in my opinion.
Definitely
Of
will
course,
be.
yeah.
And let's
Of course.
hope that weather can come into play as well to spicing things up a little bit more. But you're spot on with what you said. For Meow, his poor qualifying will make it very, very difficult for him to remain within that championship fight. The good news for him is that despite his result tonight, he can't mathematically be calculated out of the championship points, because he's now 45 points away. Max, he can be behind the 70, and the max points to get after tonight will be 75. So he stays in regardless. As for, let's see, that is Oliver Knott, of course. He can mathematically be out, but then he needs to score outside the points, and Langrock needs to win it. Now, Langrock winning it is definitely not something that we should see as unexpected, but I think Oliver Knott could definitely score some good points here tonight. And I think Givaudan, he will be in a prime position to take over that second place in the standings. But with Oliver Knott, we've seen this is race 7 of the season. This is his third race participating in Tier 4 here. So he really needs to be there for all the races, because if he just misses one more race, then he's out as well.
I mean, yeah, but considering Oliver's won every race he's been in, he's gonna try and keep that form going. And, you know, I just don't really see Meow getting close enough to keep his P2 at the end of the race. Obviously, he had that DNF in Hungary, which really hurt his chances of extending that points gap over Oliver. And, you know, it is a Williams 1-2 in the standings, but it's definitely not going to be a 1-2 at the end of the race, in my opinion. Looking at it, Oliver has a chance of a race win. Dennis Langros is going to have to work not for himself only, but for his teammates as well, to try and keep his championship hopes alive. Oh, I kind of don't think that will happen. You know, they are teammates, I guess, so it would make sense, but it's just a little bit too optimistic to think that Meow's gonna keep that P2. Anything can happen, you know, maybe someone's gonna crash. It could happen.
It could definitely happen indeed. Yeah, we've seen it before at the start of the season. I think it was round 1 where Meow already made some comments on that regarding Langrock. That he wants to make sure that he keeps his teammate alive. and I think he sees his teammate as a little bit faster. We've seen him share the podium twice so far this season. In race 1, it was a win for Langrock and a third for Meow, and in the Netherlands round 5, it was a second for Langrock and a third for Meow. They have not shared the first two and made it a 1-2 so far this season. Might still be on the cards, but seems unlikely for that tonight as we're here in China. Just so you know, the rest of the calendar, next week is Canada. Then in 2 weeks it's Austria, and around 10, your final race of the season, as a season finale should be, is at Interlagos in Brazil, which we'll be heading to in 3 weeks' time. But for tonight's China, we've just seen our qualifying session. The drivers are currently getting ready in the lobby, tweaking the settings and making sure that we can start with all 13 drivers. But the grid's fairly thinned out. Also means that for Meow it's going to be a little bit easier to score some points here. But for Langrock, this is a golden opportunity to put himself one hand on that trophy this season.
Yeah, definitely. Considering, 4 races left, and he's got about 51 points in the championship over Oliver North, who seems to be the only man who can stop him. Even if Oliver wins every race, and he attends in the first place, but even if he does, Langrock just needs to finish in the top 3 and he'll secure it. It's just too optimistic to think that Dennis is not gonna win it, right? Doesn't really seem that it can happen. It can, but it's such a slim chance. Obviously, Langrock, any race that he has finished, he hasn't finished a race outside top 3. And yeah, he's got 2 wins, 2 second places, and then 3rd place. And then a DNF, which wasn't really his fault in round 3 at Las Vegas. But yeah, it just looks to be Mr. Consistency at this point. He's consistently on the podium and getting those points.
Yeah, and also that for him would be enough, even if he finishes all 4 races in P3, but Oliver not winning all 4 remaining races. Even then, Oliver Knott would have 6 wins out of 10 in the season, but the title would still go to Langrock by about 10 points, so that just shows the margin that he has already built up over the last 6 races. But tonight, Oliver really needs to make a step into the right direction, otherwise next week we're going to see the championship decided. But I would hope that we could at least extend that a little bit longer. Ideally, of course, till the final race, but I think at this point round 9 seems to be where potentially we can see a champion be crowned. But that's still early talk. We still have 4 races to go. But with Langrock on pole and also leading the championship, he is primed to take that race win here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be between Langrock and Oliver. No one else would probably be close. If Oliver and Langrock work together, they can break the DRS and just try and get himself a comfortable gap to everyone else, and then see who's gonna win it in the last couple of laps. I don't think they would really fight at the beginning because there's no point. They wouldn't gain anything, they would just lose more time. In terms of strategy, though, my favorite topic, China, obviously a track which has a lot of tire wear. Hard, medium, as per usual. But medium hard is a really optimistic strategy if you're gonna go for that. And I think 90% of the grid will just be on the hard, because they are just the better race tire, considering the track has such high tire wear. Like yesterday when I was doing qualifying, at the end of my qualifying runs, my softs were already on 10%, and that was after 1 lap. So yeah, softs are not really a viable option. Even in a race, when there's a late on safety car, we might see drivers still go for the mediums. Obviously, in terms of the tire choice, you can go for 2 sets of hards or 2 sets of mediums to maybe bet on a late on safety car to try and make some position up. But as it stands with 13 people, a safety car is way less likely to happen, and I think it will just be a clean race, and it will all be decided on pure pace.
Yeah, that seems to be quite likely. Of course, we have that long DRS straight. We actually have two DRS zones. We have one DRS zone, which is the detection just before turn 12. That is when you go left, just lining yourself up for that long right-hander onto the back straight. And of course, the back straight being your first DRS zone. The second DRS zone has a detection just before turn 16. That is your final corner. And then on the start-finish straight, you have that second DRS zone. The pit lane time loss is actually quite little here on this track, 17.2 seconds. That is not a whole lot. So making an extra pit stop might be not that bad of a decision, especially if a safety car comes into play. And I think some of the drivers might be rooting on that. Rooting for that, of course, but I do think, Chivoda, as you mentioned, most drivers will be looking at a start on the hards, as that's just much more safer. Then go for mediums, and then if there is another late safety car, go for a second set of mediums to ride yourself out, or if that is too long, go for another set of the hard compound. Now, we're currently seeing the drivers ready up. We're going to see 28 laps around the Shanghai International Circuit. So it should be a race lasting around about the 45 minutes time frame. And yeah, in 45 minutes, we will know if Langrock is going to have a little bit of an easier time trying to clinch this championship, or if we'll have to wait a few more weeks to get a better picture on that. And let's hope that the weather might come into play and give us some interesting thoughts. We're going to load in now. Hopefully in about 20 seconds we'll know what the weather says.
Yeah. You said if Langrock can make his championship easier, saying as if he isn't double the points of P2 in the championship almost. But yeah, it makes it look a bit more like a bit less of points gap. But 50 points in 4 races is insane to gain, especially for a full-time driver that is probably gonna race every time.
We're now going to see loading complete, and then we're going to see what the weather is like, but it is all sunny, so there's no rain, nothing to worry about for us.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think Langrock would have liked a bit of rain. In TE China, about a month ago, he had a great race and he did a comeback from P7 on the grid. He actually won that race against really, really competitive drivers. Some of them are like WOR tier 2 pace, and yeah, he really showed that he is a rain master. So, unlucky that there is no rain, but the unlucky for him is lucky for Oliver Nor, of course. We'll see if he'll be able to try and maybe go for a move and take the lead into turn 1. Obviously, I think P2 is the inside line, so maybe if he gets a better launch, he can certainly go for a move. But yeah, the race is not really decided on lap 1, so don't take too many risks. It's just not worth it. For the guys at the back, I guess it's a different story, but with 13 people racing, you finish and you are gonna be basically in the points, 90% of the chance. Also, I'm looking at the grid and I'm absolutely horrified. I think there's gonna have to be a restart. Stefan Vasso is last when he was P3 in quali.
Yeah, I'm currently reading the chat. It looked like Steven Vassell was set to spectate. Well, at least he set himself to spectate by accident, which is why he's currently lost. We're currently checking whether we're going to have a lobby restart as a result or not. So we're just waiting for one of the admins to step in and have a say about that. If not, then we will just get this race underway as per usual. I do notice myself, though, is that when I'm spectating, is that it seems to be extremely laggy for myself. So let's hope that that doesn't matter too much. But we're going to hear. We're going to hear, at least in a little bit of time, what will be happening. So stay tuned for that. If nothing is different, then we will at least have a full dry 28 laps around the Shanghai International Circuit. But for now, it's just a little bit of waiting, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a little bit longer of a wait game because, yeah, there is gonna be a restart. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to wait another 5 minutes, I guess. Stephen Vassell, I pressed spectator mode by accident. How do you accidentally press a button that's spectator mode. I know when you have a wheel, the spectator mode is like one of the buttons on the wheel, so I kind of see it, but it's usually not a button that's like close to the ones you use. It's more likely one that's like pretty far from like your overtake button, but I guess it could happen. Well,
In the meantime,
I've
that will give me an opportunity to restart the game as well, because it is currently extremely laggy for me. So that will at least help giving us all a little bit of a smoother view of the race that we're going to see tonight. Means that we have a few more minutes to spare before everything is going to get underway. We've already talked you through the standings that we've had. You already know the track that we will have, and of course you already know the races that are still to come. But now the races that are still to come, next week we are going to go to Canada, then we have Austria, and then the race season finale in Brazil, Interlagos. Out of those races, Yuvidar, what do you think is going to be the best one?
I like Austria the most, so I'd say Austria. Just because 3 DRS zones, it's the shortest track on the calendar, 36 laps, and you got 3 DRS zones every lap. How is that not a recipe for complete disaster and overtaking maneuvers, right? It's gonna have to be funny. I definitely like Austria, just because you could be 8 tenths back, and if the guy ahead doesn't have DRS, you still overtake him within a lap. It's so funny because the DRS is way too overpowered. But what can you do about it? It's the game. Yeah, Brazil will be a close second just because it's a track that almost everyone likes. I mean, who doesn't like Brazil, right? It's just such a nice flow circuit. Everything just feels very nice in Sao Paulo, and yeah, Canada will be a little bit less exciting in my opinion. But will there be rain in Canada? Because we know the Canadians like a bit of rain. Maybe a bit of snow, but that's unrealistic for the game. If it rains in Canada, it could be more interesting than the other two, by the way.
Canada does prove to be an interesting race for us to watch as well. It's always proved quite a bit of incidents as well. Just an interesting race all the way through. So I think next week is going to be quite good in that sense. As for the other races, Austria is always going to be so close. And yeah, loads and loads of overtakes. A lot of DRS chicken they're going to see all the way throughout. And then finally, Interlagos. I think it's just the best way to end off the season, and that likely, as you also said, Juvidar, will be the best race of the season. In the meantime, I'm not sure if you heard some background noise, but that is me just starting up the game and just making sure that everything is working as it should. It seems to be a lot smoother now, so that is good news. Because it was a little bit choppy earlier on, but I'll be rejoining the lobby, and then we'll be able to get this on our way.
Hi chat, Meow has lost connection to Steam service. That is not great. I'll try and help him, but I don't think he can. Yeah, he's online on his phone. Okay, well,
We're missing a few more drivers now, actually. We're currently with 9 drivers in the lobby, so we're missing 4. Oliver not has just rejoined, so we're just missing 3. But Meow is actually in the lobby, so he might have lost connection to the Steam service, but he is still in the lobby, so that in itself is good news for the 3 drivers we're still missing. Let's hope there are no pending issues that might delay this race any longer. But yeah, we'll have to wait a few more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we have basically waited longer than the actual qualifying took at this point, I think. But what can we do about it? It's the game's fault, not ours, right? It's so boring having to wait for a restart every time because they made the slipstream all that powerful in qualifying that we have to restart every time. Like, I'm not complaining because it's the way the game is, but how can you really have that? Like, every league has to spend 10 minutes per race just setting up a whole new race for that. It just gets a little bit boring over time, but
It is
yeah.
what it is. In the meantime, though, we have every driver reconnected to the lobby, so that is good news. And it looks like all the drivers have picked their correct cars. Just waiting for the lobby to be set up correctly with everyone in the right grid position, and then we're gonna join back into the game. But at least that means that once again the weather is going to be a big question mark. We just saw it was super sunny out there, Juvenal. Do you think it's gonna be any different, or do you expect any rain this time around?
I mean, I hope it rains just because the racing would be a lot more funny to watch and more challenging for the drivers. So yeah, but yeah, it doesn't rain that often on China. I think it's like a 20% chance ish of a rain. So we already had one restart, so we've got 120% chance less. So maybe there's gonna be rain. Some drivers I know are not gonna like it, but what can you do about it? I hope that there's rain just because I wanna watch and have fun.
I see a few of the drivers currently readying up. It looks like Mr. Pike is also ready. He's our lobby host. Drivers are still currently talking in the Discord chat, so we'll have to see until we get the heads up to ready up and to get this show on the road. And just checking if everyone has a nice connection, but I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary here. Most drivers just having the full 4 bars of connection. For the other drivers, we know that this is how it stands. And the big surprise for tonight, who do you think is going to surprise us all and going to finish in the top 5?
Top 5. I'd say Joel Lindstrom. He had a great race in Hungary last time around, so maybe he can keep up that form. In China, obviously, both tracks are really high on wings, so it would make sense if he's up there. Definitely rooting for him. I do like him as a guy and a driver.
Yeah, I
So,
think
yeah.
Joel is quite a good pick. For myself, I think I'm going to go with Herman Polyakov. He's shown to have some good pace throughout the season. Hasn't really materialized on that yet, but I think tonight, with the issues that we've already had, qualifying could have gone slightly better for him. I think there's more pace in that car, and I think he might surprise us at the end of the evening. And hopefully he can do well.
Yeah, I mean, I've raced him quite a bit, and I can tell he's just a little bit too passive in a race. Like, you barely see him go for any moves. He just stays behind, always having, like 70, 80, 90% ERS, just sitting there waiting when everything goes ahead, fireworks erupt ahead of him. He just never really goes for like a lunge just to try and get a move on, which I guess is a safe way to take it. Oh, it is a little bit cloudy. Rain, please. This is not copium, guys. Please.
Well, it's definitely by far not as sunny as it was earlier on when we were in the lobby. Definitely overcast as it looks like. I'm not able to spot any rain clouds as of this moment. I'm not seeing the drivers talk about any rain in the chat either. So we'll have to see throughout the race if anything is going to happen in that sense. Thankfully, you're asking for us real quick, Shivadar, so hopefully one of the drivers is going to respond and let us know about the incoming weather. If not, we're going to find out throughout the 28 laps here on the Shanghai International Circuit. Just waiting for all the drivers to get ready on their strategy. As we said earlier on, we expect a hard medium. Some drivers might go for a medium hard, but the softs seem to be out of the question for tonight unless we get a real late safety car. Otherwise, simple one supper will do in most cases. Otherwise, with a safety car, an extra set of either mediums or hards depending on when that safety car comes out. We're going to see more. And a big question, of course, will championship leader and pole position man Dennis Langrock be able to do more? Or is he going to get overtaken by Oliver Knott just by turn 1? We're going to find out now as our 5 lights are off. And we're on our way with round 7, the Shanghai International Circuit Grand Prix. And it's a good start from Oliver Knott, but Langrock stays just ahead And around the outside, we see a long swing come in from Stephen Vassell. Down the inside, Mr. Pike has put himself through, and he's now on into P2 with Oliver Knott side by side with him. And Mr. Pike now on the inside for the next turn. So he seems to be out there very aggressive in the first turn, but that has paid off well. We have a yellow in sector 1, a deep dive coming in from Herman Polyakov, and he gets caught up. That's a Ferrari spinning out with him. That's Isfan Tomasi. And we've had a little bit of heartbreak for some of the drivers. Isfan Tomasi, Herman Polyakov, and Nicolino being caught up with that incident, as looks like there's substantial wing damage for the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, and so for Nicolino, he's missing an end plate, and that race basically over. I don't think there's gonna be a safety car with there for these three to save them, but yeah, really unlucky. Nicolino just got caught up on the exit of turn 2, well, I guess turn 3, because it is the exit, but yeah, it's unlucky. Just got caught sandwiched, I think, and yeah, nothing you can really do. It's whatever, it's luck. You can't control that. It's unlucky that it happened, but there's already a 1 second gap between P5 and P6, so we'll see if the grid actually splits up into 2 groups, as Hazif does run a little bit wide on the exit, so there will be a warning for him, and for many other drivers, as I can tell by the way they're going through the last corner. The only real track limit warnings that you can get on this track are, I believe, in the last corner. There's not really anywhere that you can overstep, because the white line is always followed by a curb that if you just go over, there's like grass and it's not optimal to go over it, so yeah. But currently Dennis Langlock does keep that P1 lead pretty nice and healthy, but Mr. Pike though, great start from him, making up 2 places in 1, and certainly being aggressive does pay off, at least on lap 1. We'll see if it has any negative effects later on in the race, but so far everything looks nice and clean from him. Maybe this will be the first race where he wouldn't get reported in the steward's room, oh, I highly doubt it. It has already happened 6 races without a race that he hasn't been reported. He probably wouldn't happen again, but yeah. Oliver Knott though, all the way up to the back of Mr. Pike, trying to go for a move. Down inside it goes. It has a little bit of a look, but not quite. And the field has already split up. And crucially, Joel Lindstrom is just keeping in the DRS of Pekajic. But Pekajic has lost the top 4 and they have run away. And they are never gonna be caught up again, in my opinion. So it will be a fight between these 4 for the win now. And Pekajic has got a mountain to climb on this lap. He needs to push to try and get himself into that DRS. He is basically the only man who stands now in the faith of everyone else behind him to have any chance of fighting for a top 4 finish. And as it stands at the moment, he doesn't have the DRS to sort of push and try and slingshot back into the DRS of Stephen Vassell. And you're gonna see, if he doesn't have DRS here, which he wouldn't, he's gonna lose just about half a second in a span of 1 straight. And that is way too big of a gap to close in 1 lap. And yeah, they're gonna have to work together with Hoy here to try and sort of switch positions in the DRS and maybe catch back up. But yeah, we'll see Oliver Knott now move for P2. Side by side they go with Mr. Pike though. Mr. Pike down instead of Dennis Langlock. And they've collided. There is a little bit of contact. Stephen Vassell gets caught up in all that. Oliver Knott is ghosted inside of Mr. Pike now. Stephen Vassell's almost fallen out of DRS, and that is a golden opportunity for Pekajic to try and get back into the DRS, obviously. Mr. Pike and Oliver Knott are still ghosted in each other, which is pretty funny. And I don't think this is gonna stay like this for very long. It is a very uncomfortable, speaking from experience, when something like this happens, because when you're driving, you don't want to see another car moving right in your screen. But yeah, Mr. Pike down inside he goes of Dennis Langrock. Will he try? Not quite have the grip. That's like just keep his P1. Oliver not trying to find a way through. Yeah, he definitely has quite a bit more pace than Mr. Pike at this stage of the race, and he is gonna look to try and overtake and maybe work together with Dennis to sort of pull away from Mr. Pike. And he's just slowing them down at this point. He's not really working for them at this stage.
Yeah, definitely a nice fight going on there for P1. Mr. Pike trying what he can do to get past Dennis Langrock, who has been defending superbly up until now. But now in this long straight, Mr. Pike definitely is going to get close enough to try and go for a move down the inside. But Oliver not wants to have a say about that as well. He's just going to stay behind a late send down the inside. And that might be a double overtake for Oliver Knott. It's almost 3 men wide as they go, but Langrock has now lost crucially not 1 but 2 positions as he goes side by side with Oliver Knott. Langrock finds himself in P3 after that late send by Mr. Pike, but that was a clean overtake. And here comes Stephen Vasso round the outside on Dennis Langrock. It's a time penalty for Nicolino. I'm not sure if there was any damage that was made there. Now on the outside we find Langrock, who's side by side with Oliver Knott, but he will now be on the inside for the next turn. Is he going to make a move onto Mr. Pike as well? They're also close, but good defending on the inside line by Mr. Pike. Round the outside, Oliver Knott still wants to make a move, and him and Langrock still go side by side, but Langrock using quite a bit of ERS to try and overtake them both, and he will be on the right side of the track for the next turn, and he's ahead. Langrock retakes that race lead, and now down the inside, Oliver Knott tries to do the same. He's still almost side by side with Mr. Pike, gets pushed off there. Side by side they go once more. This is a thrilling battle for P2. And he really wants to dispatch Mr. Pike there. Still side by side they go. Now Vasso's going to come round the outside. And Lindstrom, Picarchi, Kevin West, Alberto Barros, Meow and Hazard have all caught up with the top. Which means our top 10 is within 1 DRS window of one another. Now Vasso round the outside of Oliver Knott. He was really close, but Knott has deployed some ERS as to defend that. And we have resumed normal order for for the top 4 again, with Mr. Pike just ahead of Oliver Knott in P2.
Yeah, they all, I mean, everyone outside the top 4 just owes Mr. Pike one. He is the sole deliverer of the DRS trade, and yeah, he has managed.
He's gone the race lead again. He's gone round the outside in turn 1. That was a master move for Mr. Pike.
I mean, yeah, considering I think he's running a little bit higher wings than Dennis and Oliver, to be fair. Like you see, he's quite a little bit slower on the straight, so he's using more ERS to keep up with everyone, and you can see, he's
Yeah,
just
there's Langrock again.
Yeah, I mean, they're just switching places. Like, he just let him through. I saw he lifted, so yeah. At this point, I guess there's no real point in fighting, because, you know, you're all just gonna be in the DRS no matter what, if there isn't an incident. So, yeah, fighting is just unnecessary risks at this stage. Just keep knocking down the laps, and by the time the pit stops come, which will be at about lap 18 to 20, I believe, we'll see what the strategy will be looking then. So Mr. Pike tries to go for another move, and Oliver not! Around the outside he goes with Dennis Langrock, around the outside of Mr. Pike, side by side. Through the hairpin they go, in towards the last corner. Mr. Pike does let him through, and that is a double overtake by Oliver Knott. A great move from him, a double overtake. But now Mr. Pike will try and get him back on towards turn 1 they go. Round the outside, Dennis on the inside, 3 wide into turn 2 they go. Dennis Langrock now on the outside line, has to carry a bit more speed to try and counter the more distance that is traveling. Side by side with Mr. Pike again. Can Oliver not find a way through? Not quite. And Dennis Langrock has still somehow found a way in the lead to the lead of the race. He always finds a way to just sneak past, and he's still gotten that race lead once again. Every single lap he's been overtaken and then re-overtaken the guys ahead of him within 3 corners. That is just great pace from Dennis Langrock, and certainly the racecraft is looking up for him at this stage. But now we have come down to the straight once again, and a big dose of DRS. Oh, that's a massive slide from Oliver North, and that is going to hurt his chances of trying to go for a move on Mr. Pike. And that is going to give Stefan Vasso a chance to get into that P3. Mr. Pike down inside, he goes on Dennis Langrock. Can Oliver not following through? Side by side, but not quite. And Mr. Pike, once again, you see, he's running higher wings than them because he's letting them through just because he wants to have the DRS. Because otherwise, he's absolutely screwed on a straight. And for turn 1 they go. Up the inside of Dennis Langrock goes Oliver Knott and Stefan Vasso trying to follow him through into turn 2. Dennis will have the inside line. Oliver Knott though has managed to get himself ahead of Dennis Langrock around the outside, and that is a great move. As you see, Pakachi is trying to go for a move around the outside of Stefan Vasso. Stefan Vasso, what a switchback. Oh, I'll let you commentate this because it's great racing.
Yeah, this is actually way more exciting than you normally expect your races. It's always more of a sit and waiting game for that long back straight where it really kicks off in the final few laps of the race. But we've seen overtakes all the way through in the first sector and in the third sector, with the second sector, the pack bunching up a bit, and sometimes some late outside moves from Langrock. But Langrock now, for the first time, has not been able to retake the race lead. It's Oliver Knott this time round in the race lead. Stefan Vasso still in P4, stays close there. Pekarczyk really has caught up. Joel Lindstrom and Kevin West also close to the back of Alberto Barros, who's also having a great race. Currently in P6, the man of the kick Sauber. And Joel Lindstrom is going to keep his line, and then down the inside, he sees a Mercedes come up, and he is trying to go for 2, but can perhaps only do 1, and Lindstrom will have to slot in behind Kevin, as he has now picked up P7. As we go down the start-finish straight, can Lindstrom try and retake that P7 from round the outside? Mr. Pike has gone the race lead again. Langrock and Oliver Knott are fighting for P2. And Joel Lindstrom is just staying behind for the time being, not really being able to make an overtaking move here just yet. As for Meow, the man second in the standings, he is at the back of this queue in P10, as he was overtaken by Hassett a couple of laps ago. And Hassett is trying to make a move down the inside of Joel Lindstrom. It's a little bit of sliding, but he does get through, and this opens up the door for Meow as well. He's already gotten Joel, but can he get Hassett as well? It looks like he can't for now, but it's P9 momentarily for your Williams driver. And up ahead, Oliver Knott still has that race lead, and Langrock back in P3.
Well, what am I watching? The DRS games on lap 9 F28. That is mental. You see Mr. Pie, he's just trying to let anyone pass just so he has DRS. Because otherwise, he's done for on a straight. If he leads going into the straight for any lap, he's gonna be down to P3 probably, guaranteed. And yeah, but it is certainly a great bit of racing. Mr. Pike once again up the inside of Oliver Knott towards the hairpin they go. Can he quite make a move? Is that nope? Oliver Knott still manages to hold on to that P1. And we'll see if Dennis Langrock can have a look as they're all burning overtake here to try and get track position. You ideally want to be in P2, although that wouldn't really matter. But yeah, Dennis Langrock trying to go up the inside of Mr. Pike for the lead of the race. He has gone ahead of Oliver Knott. Never mind, still side by side. He's still there. And that is going to be a double move now for the lead of the race on Mr. Pike. And that is Dennis Langrock once again in the lead. But considering he's only got 30% of ERS, he's gonna have a lot less actually. Mr. Pike and Oliver Knott and Stefan Vasso all have over 70% to use, and Dennis has only got 40, so he's in big trouble if he doesn't keep that gap. But he's 4 tenths, it's a pretty healthy gap. He's not gonna get double overtaken, he's only gonna get overtaken by Mr. Pike probably. But then again, Mr. Pike would probably just let him have the position because he doesn't want to be leading. So yeah, we'll see if anyone outside the top 4 can make a move as well. Spikacic is close to Stefan Vasso and he has got a full charge to work with. It's down the inside it goes. Mr. Pike on Dennis Langrock, but Dennis still holds on. Or more should I say, Mr. Pike just lets him go. There's no point. That is, I think, a warning for Dennis Langrock actually here. You really gotta be careful because on that exit, it's a really high commit, high reward type of corner. You just always trying to carry as much speed as you can to carry over. And oh my god, what? Okay, Dennis Langrock has gone side by side once again with Oliver Not. Mr. Pike is just holding them up because he's recharging. That would make a way for Dennis Langrock to try, but he's blocked. No way. Oliver Not is side by side still with Dennis Langrock around.
There's 5 man fighting for P1. It's insane. We still have Mr. Pride just ahead, but I think around the outside, Oliver Not wants to do just a little bit too wide. But they are still side by side, and now finally Oliver Not is through. Now Kevin West is starting to get into the equation. We have yellow in sector 2, and that is a safety car. That's a safety car coming out pretty much nowhere, and it's Hassett who has lost his complete front wing, so I think he got caught up with the bunch of the pack getting so queued up together. But this is great news for Istvan Tomasi because he's back in the race, he can go to the hearts, and he won't have to make a stop anymore. All the other drivers would have to make a race, 17 laps on the mediums, that's impossible. This is great news for Istvan Tomasi, who thought he'd been out and down at the race, but he's now back in contention.
Yeah, that is the best case scenario that Istvan Tomasi could have ever imagined. There is no better race scenario than this at this stage. Everyone.
Oh, Oliver.
Lewis Hamilton reference.
Anyways. Very wide there. I think you might be happy there's no gravel trap there anymore.
Yeah, I certainly got flashbacks from 2007 Lewis Hamilton, but yeah. Luckily, this is a laser scanned track. I think there are only like 4 laser scan tracks, but anyways. Yeah, I don't see anyone making the end of the race with great pace. They can make it to the end of the race, but it would be right on the edge, I'd say. Like the tires would be at about 65-70%-ish. Maybe more, but yeah, it's not looking too great for them. But for Istvan Tomasi, that is the best race scenario I could have wished for.
He's actually gone back to his old hearts, the 3-lap old hearts. Not sure if that was fully intended, but if he's only got one set of hearts, then it doesn't matter all too much, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 3-lap hard, it should only be about 6% tire wear, wouldn't be that much. You know, he can make it to the end with comfortable pace. Obviously, everyone ahead of him will have better pace, but they will be fighting, so he would be able to catch up, to keep up. And, you know, I'd say after lap 20, roughly, the hards are gonna be better than the mediums. And he's gonna be the man to watch out for, because I suspect there could be some punches at the end, because when he catches the safety car, I think it's not gonna be this time. It's gonna be at the end of next lap. So lap 13, and they're gonna have to complete 15 laps on a set of mediums on a track with high tire wear, high tire degradation, and that just looks a bit too optimistic to have great pace, because your mediums are gonna be dead by the end. They're gonna be absolutely screaming in the last 2-3 laps. And yeah, it's not looking too great for anyone. That is not the optimal strategy at all. And yeah, we might see some people. Yeah, Alberto Barros. He has gone into the pits for another set of hards.
It's actually
And
not
he's
a bad
gonna.
idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea. If you're down in P9, you lose 3 positions for a fresh set of hards that is gonna take you far, far longer in the race. And yeah, great strategy. You know, this is what I talked about in the beginning. You have a tire choice. You can opt for the double hard compound and only one set of mediums, which is exactly what he's done. Because he's on a brand new set of hards, faster than Istvan Tamas's tires, and if he gets past him, he can be the one to be leading that double car train that is just gonna be carving its way through the field at the end of the race. Because the hards do wear a lot slower than the mediums do, and in about 6-7 laps the mediums are gonna have roughly 35-40% tire wear, which is a lot, and you're certainly gonna start feeling that grip loss. Particularly about 20 and 40% is where there are big drops in the grip available in the tires, and you just essentially hit a cliff, and your tires, they could have been working well, and if you hit 20%, you're gonna suddenly have a big grip loss on one of the exits, and you're gonna feel that. It's a kick in the stomach, and you know it's a bad feeling, but there's nothing you can do about it. And yeah, safety car in the pit lane, the end of this lap, and Oliver Knott will be the man to resume racing. We'll see how he goes along with that. Does he want to wait that out as long as he can, or maybe try and surprise his opponents and maybe build a little bit of a gap so he's safe from anyone behind for the first few laps, just to put a little bit of a barrier on a buffer, let's say, from anyone behind, because they're certainly going to be trying to make some moves. I'll take you to go for the restart.
Well, we're gonna see the restart happen. I think around about the final corner would be the right moment to pounce. It looks like Oliver Knott does, although it was dangerously close to picking up track limits there, but keeps that gap nice and tightly enough over onto Mr. Pike. We saw when the engineers come into the chats, they mentioned that the mediums last very well here, so perhaps the runners up front think they can make it all the way to the end on those mediums. For Alberto Barros, he definitely thinks that is not a possibility, and he's actually dispatched his Fantomasi already, so he is now the front runners of those hard compounds. But he's 9/10 away from Nicolino currently and needs to stay within that 1 second margin to at least keep his hopes alive for a nice top 10, or perhaps even more if the other drivers are going to hit that cliff on the mediums. Another thing that I mentioned, that I wanted to say, Givudar, I know that also in the real world, you hear a lot of this new year, new me thing. Most of the time, let's be real, it's bullshit. But I have a feeling that this year with Mr. Pike, we might be onto something. This really feels like a new year, new me. He's still making races exciting, but where earlier on in the season it was sometimes for the wrong reasons, it seems like tonight he's really managed to flip that switch, and he's still making the race very interesting, but this time in a very good way. We're seeing some very great fighting, some very clean fighting, and this is exactly what you want to see in Tier 4.
Yeah, let's hope you don't jinx it.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Yeah. Through the hairpin they go. Stephen Vassell trying to go for a move on Mr. Pine, not quite getting the grip up around the outside to get himself through, but yeah, they're all using all of their battery to try and get some track position now, because if you're ahead in the DRS train, of course it will be easier, because a little bit of contact they made through turn 2 they go. Switchback maybe from Stephen Vassell, not quite. Mr. Pike does have the upper edge with those higher wings, and suddenly he is great on the exit of every corner. Dennis Langrock goes for a move out of nowhere, and that is him slotting into P3. A great move from Dennis Langrock, and he's already making up positions, but Stephen Vassell wouldn't give that up without a fight. but he does not have the ERS to really go for any counter attacks at this stage. As Mr. Pike is just holding on to that DRS, and Oliver Knott tried to break that DRS, but unlucky for him, that did not happen, and Mr. Pike will still have the DRS, I believe.
I think it was Justin when they
Yeah,
crossed the line, but we're going to see now as the wings are going to open, and indeed they do open for him. Langrog almost onto the grass there, but he manages to get the move done onto Mr. Pike. Will once again be behind Oliver Knott, but Oliver Knott thought he could get a breakaway. He is not going to get that. And it means that they all stay within striking distance of one another, though Nicolino in P9 has fallen out of the race. He's just outside that 1 second mark, meaning that also Hasid and Meow are not in it anymore. But good news for Alberto Barros, who is starting to get to the back of those medium runners once more. So hopefully in a few laps from now, we're going to see him move up the order and see if he can have any say in the fight later on down the race. We're currently in lap 16 of 28, and Oliver Knott still leading the race ever since that safety car restart.
Yeah, a bit more than halfway down the race now. So we see Herman Polyakov trying to go for a move up the inside of Lindstrom. That is Herman up into P7. Your prediction is starting to come along pretty nicely for now. It's a battle of our predictions currently for P7. But the bad thing for the hard runners, they have fallen out of DRS, of the lead train, and even though they are gonna have better tires at the end, if they don't have DRS, they're gonna lose way too much without it, and they're gonna have a mountain to climb in the next few laps to try and close that gap down, as the mediums will be faster for another 4 or 5 laps, let's say. And yeah, it's just not a good quest. Dennis Langrog up the inside of Oliver Knott, and that is Dennis into the lead of the race. Mr. Pike keeping that P3, keeping that podium place, and he's looking great. Pace is looking very good for everyone in the top 3. Stefan Vassell just waiting for something to happen to see an opportunity. He is saving that battery for later on. But yeah, everyone's pretty much used whatever they had, and now they're gonna have to recharge. The only one who is really kept up that battery percentage up is Oliver Knott. And yeah, he's just chilling in the DRS of Langrog. There's no real point in fighting now. The race will be decided on the last lap, not now. But you can certainly have an incident that would cost you your race at this stage, so it's not worth trying to go for any risky maneuvers. Just switch in the DRS on a long straight, and yeah, it will just wait for the last couple of laps. This is where you can really shine. Kevin West is just trying to hold on to that DRS, almost a second, and he's out of battery deployment, which means if he manages to get in a fight, oh, he's got wing damage. Kevin West is missing that left hand end plate on the left hand side of his wing, and that is the reason he's struggling to keep up in the DRS, as Oliver Knott goes for the lead of the race. Mr. Pike trying to follow him through, not quite, has a little bit of a look down the inside, but yeah, Kevin West is just holding on to that DRS, but he's got no battery, he has got wing damage. Herman Polyakov and Hoy Lindström will be looking to try and overtake him and make some moves back.
Yeah, further down the line, looks like Alberto Barros has really lost a lot of time to the medium runners. Gap now 3.7 seconds. That seems to be almost too much to still do anything about, as Hazard is having a proper fight with Meow, and also Nicolino starting to get within that fight. I wonder if Hazard also has got some damage, because that gap to Lindstrom is now 2.2 seconds. But it looks like he still has both of his front wing end plates intact, and it might just be that hard fighting that we just saw that has caused him to drop a little bit in pace. Further up ahead, Langrog is now ahead of Oliver Knott, still ahead of Mr. Pike, and then Stefan Vasu and Pikarczyk. That top 5 stays unchanged. I think for Kevin West, he is soon going to be overtaken by Herman and Joel, and that would mean that there will be no way back for him with that front wing end plate damage. It's really struggling to stay within that 1 second mark. He's taking the turn just before the detection point a little bit different. Cause him to lose some time heading up into the straight, but at least means that he will have some DRS, as it should pop open now, and it still does pop open, but behind Herman Polyakov is now going to go side by side, has gone alongside him, and gotten that overtake done. So nicely done for him. That means Herman can try and hunt down that top 5 and see if he can move himself back in. A man who we thought earlier on would be able to put himself in that mix. Sure, Lindstrom still has to put himself in it, but he, being only a 10 down and now side by side with Kevin West, has to go for the outside move, but he has already gotten it done. Now both Herman and Joel have gone through. Mr. Pike and Oliver Knott still fighting. Now it's Oliver Knott down the inside, but I think on the outside, Mr. Pike might be able to hang on, but no! He does not have the grip to fight that, and he's back to P3.
Yeah, unlucky though for Herman Polyakov. He caught Kevin West in such a timing that Herman has no ERS to effectively try and claw back into the DRS of the top 5, and as it stands at the moment, Joel is basically the only companion that Herman has to try and work together a little bit here to get back into the DRS, as Herman just doesn't quite have the ERS to work with, but Joel has just a little bit, 20% over Herman's battery, but it's just not enough at this stage, as everyone in the top 5 is basically on a full charge, and just working together nicely, switching positions, not losing any time, and that just makes it so much more difficult to get back into the DRS, as you just have to make up time in basically on pure pace, which is just so difficult when the grid is that close. You know, you're racing with people that are basically your skill level, so it's difficult to gain on people that are the same level as you. But yeah, Oliver Knott now is gonna have a little bit of a look around the outside of Dennis Langrock on turn 2. Doesn't quite fight the grip at this stage, and yeah, the mediums should be dropping off about now, I'd say, which is where the hards should be getting a little bit faster, but they're already 5 seconds back. And oh, great move from Pekasic there, trying to go for a move on Mr. Pike. Side by side with Stefan Vassell through the S section they go. Doesn't quite find the grip to keep that position. Stefan Vassell regains that P4. Mr. Pike had a little bit of a wobble in the exit of 3, and just saw him all too vulnerable for Pekasic to get a look up the inside. And yeah, a little bit of contact was made, but that's also sort of a connection issue. You know, if you lag back, there's not really much you can do. Herman at 10th and a half off of the DRS, pretty close, but not quite in that DRS just yet. The hard runner, meanwhile, are still losing time, which is not great, and I think the strategy call is definitely not gonna pay off at this stage. I don't see him getting back in, to be fair. Unlucky for them.
Yeah, gap now definitely too big, 5 seconds, and that should still increase. It's 5.2 to 5.3 even, as we see Picarci cross the start-finish line. Joel Lindstrom has gone past Herman Polyakov once more, but the gap, look at that, 1.7. That was 1.1 at the start of the long back straight, so it shows how much you actually do lose without that DRS. So without a little bit of luck, there's no way for these drivers to get back within the fight, and that means that our top 5 will be fighting for that race win, with still Dennis Langrock ahead of Oliver Knott, of Mr. Pike, of Stefan Vassell and Picarci, although we just saw the last two have a pretty good fight, with Mr. Pike trying to go for that overtake, but just not being able to materialize on that. But now it's Oliver Knott trying to up the pace onto Langrock up ahead, really starting to use a bit more of the track, as we see some energy saving by Langrock ahead. But look at that, that's a full ERS bar for Oliver Knott. The big question is, when is he going to deploy some of that? Because if he deploys a little bit now, he will definitely be able to overtake. He's using just a tad bit. It's now dropped just below 90%. He's already side by side with Langrock, and I think he's just going to outbrake him. Go for the move, but here comes Mr. Pike, who wants to make it 3. A very late break by Oliver Knott. And at the end, Mr. Pike decides to back out, not go for the full send, just try to take one of them. Langrock wants to go and take him in the final corner, which he does. So Mr. Pike once again has been set back to P3. But now, Stephen Vassal, Pikarchik's a heavy fight for P4 as they dive into turn 1. Looks like Pikarchik this time is on the inside of things, and he has gone ahead of Stephen Vassal, who seems to be a little bit stuck now. Isvan Tomasi has DNF'd in the pit lane, so he won't be continuing. Mr. Pike has actually gone past Langrock once more, who's starting to fight back, wants to go round the outside once more, which he's done so many times already. But this time, Mr. Pike says no, outbreaks him there nicely, and he's going to say to Langrock, bring it on, try and see if you can come round. We'll have to go round the outside once more, but looks like this time round, Langrock will have to settle for a bit and allow Mr. Pike to remain in P2, at least for the time being.
Yeah, like 22 out of 28 now. We've got 6 more to go to the end of the race. And suddenly fireworks are gonna start kicking in pretty soon. At this stage, they're still not quite finalizing a move for a race win or anything. They're just trying to keep Joel and Herman out of the DRS. It's 1.1. And they're doing a pretty good job at it so far. They're not letting them back in. And yeah, they are securing the top 5 spots for now. As Mr. Pike tries to go down the inside of Oliver. Not quite. Pikashish also has a little bit of a look on Dennis Langrock, but no one's really finalizing a move. No one really wants to use too much battery at this stage, because if you use too much, you can be left vulnerable. Double overtake now. Dennis Langrock and Mr. Pike both in the mix of their fighting get past Oliver Knott down the straight, and Oliver Knott in the space of one straight has gone down from P1 to P3, but he's trying to claw back around the outside of Dennis Langrock in turn 4, and Dennis does get let him through as Mr. Pikashish in the McLaren down inside he goes. He does push Dennis Langrock off track, and that gives Stephen Vassal a great opportunity to go around the outside. Everyone is saving battery now. Stephen Vassal trying to go up the inside of turn 8, I believe that is. And Stephen's gone all the way around the outside to P1. What a move.
And Langrock back too. Langrock also gets 2 positions. We had the onboard for Dennis Langrock, seeing how Stephen Vassal has now gone the race lead, and everyone's caught up. Herman, Joel Lindstrom, and Kevin West have gone back into the fight, and Pikarchik is now having a struggle to keep Herman and Joel just behind him. We now have a fight with the top 8 as Herman picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That's the end of the run for him. Stephen Vassal is still ahead, but 3-man wide they go into the heartbreaking zone, and it's Mr. Pike on the inside. Round the outside, Langrock wants to go, but will he come out ahead of Mr. Pike? It seems like he has. He is indeed ahead of him. Stephen Vassal put back to 3rd, and Oliver Knott fighting himself in P4 for the time being. He has to try and get past again. A little contact with Stephen Vassal, but he's gone past once more, and Mr. Pike now in the lead. Sure, things are already kicking off, and we're just in lap 24 of 28, and this is turning into one of the best races we've seen so far this season. A lot of overtaking. The drivers are still keeping it clean as I say that. 2 drivers almost collect one another, but Stephen Vassal has managed to keep Pikarchik behind, which sends it down the inside. That is such a late move. There's contact finally, and that Stephen Vassal put back a little bit, but I feel like that was just a bit too optimistic by Pikarchik there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I kind of get where he's coming from. I mean, Stephen Vassal did go for a move on the braking. He did move on the braking quite a bit, so we'll see if he gets reported for that with the stewards. But yeah, ultimately this just resulted in him losing 2 positions instead of gaining 1. So yeah, unlucky stuff for Stephen Vassal. He still got 4 laps to try and get back into possibly a podium, but it does look like it will be pretty tough at this stage to overtake. But you see, the grid is so close. All it takes is one small contact, someone maybe gets spun around or anything, and yeah, everyone is so close that one incident can basically see you have a clear sky up ahead, and he can't see you gaining quite a few places with it, because everyone is just so close, he's bunched up together. As Mr. Pie goes up the inside, Oliver Knott follows in front, Dennis Langrock, into turn 1 they go, side by side once again, for the fifth lap in a row probably, we've seen Oliver and Dennis side by side in turn 1. It is beautiful to watch because they do race very clean and they all leave space for each other. Spekashis tries to go up the inside of Langrock, not quite managing to stick it around this time. Maybe he's gonna have a look next time. Joel trying to get past Herman, who obviously has that 3-second time penalty, so he's out of contention if he didn't get a warning where like he got pushed off or anything. Maybe he can remove it. Oh!
There's a little bit of contact with the drivers after that quite optimistic move from Oliver Knott. He managed to get past Mr. Pike. That almost sends Mr. Pike into the other drivers. They still keep it clean for now. Langrock is back into P4. Lundstrom still behind Herman Polyakov. And it's actually Pikarczyk now who's made his way up into P2. Steven Vassar has gone past Kevin West again, but he's now down in P7 still. As Pikarczyk certainly having a good outlook and a proper result this race, and Oliver Knott still trying to keep his 100% win streak alive. Remember, he's only participated in 2 races so far. He's won both of them. As for Dennis Langrock, he is the championship leader as he's participated in all of them and has gone by far the most points out of any driver. The man second in the standings is currently 11. That is Meow. Looks like he will struggle to pick up many points, if any at all. As for Langrock, a good result over onto Oliver Knott. Puts himself more than 50 points clear of anyone else. The gap was 45 points. Pikarczyk has a little slide there. And that opens up the door for Mr. Pike. Is he going to make a send down the inside? Pikarczyk defending it harshly. But around the outside, Mr. Pike, maybe he's going to try a switchback. He is indeed going to attempt. It's a terrible accident for Pikarczyk. He collects Mr. Pike. Mr. Pike loses the front wing end plate, but there's nothing that he could do about that. Pikarczyk struggling too much with the tires, and Oliver Knott is gone. Oliver Knott is 1.5 seconds ahead, and now down the inside comes Langrock. He's through on Mr. Pike, but looks like Oliver Knott has just done it.
Yeah, basically 2 seconds. It's gonna be a big mountain to climb for Dennis Langrock if he wants to have a look, but at this stage it looks way too far to gain that when you don't have a companion. All to basically Pike and Pikarczyk both have wing damage at this stage. Unlucky incident. Pikarczyk is just a little bit too optimistic on the throttle, lost the backhand, and Mr. Pike couldn't react in time, and yeah, that has resulted in them both having wing damage. So
Mr. Pike almost lost it there on the hairpin, but didn't catch anyone and still keeps his P3 as a result. But he's really struggling with that wing damage. We still have 2 laps to go. He really wants to get past Langrock, but I think he just needs to make sure that he can settle for P2. He goes full in on Langrock, and it's a miracle that both drivers don't fly off the track. There's again a little bit of contact. Langrock is trying to fight back here. Mr. Pike with his front wing damage is trying to do all he can, but he's now put under serious pressure by Pikarczyk behind. We've seen Pikarczyk make some sense earlier on, but he's not going to try around the outside, does not have the wings for it. And now Kevin West suddenly is starting to mix himself into the fight. Remember, he is currently 4th in the standings, and he might put himself 3rd if he can get enough points and get ahead of Meow. As it will be Oliver Knott, of course, who's going to take over that P2 in the standings. But Steven Vassar is trying to move himself back into the fight. He is now into P5. There's things happening all over the circuit, and your top 11 is still fighting for a shot at P2. But I think Langrock is starting to get a little bit of a gap onto Mr. Pike. Oliver Knott is long gone, but everything behind is yet to be decided.
yeah, I think anyone can grab P2 here. Anyone in the top 6 can grab a P2 here. Last lap will be the deciding factor here. Let's see who's got battery though. Dennis has got 50%. Pikarczyk has a full charge for the last lap to try and find a way through. on Mr. Pike and Dennis Langrock, but at this stage, he has wing damage, which will make us certainly a lot more difficult, along with Mr. Pike, to try and fight Dennis Langrock, because, Dennis car is intact, so he has got a lot more downforce. Despite that, sends it on the inside of turn to a little bit of a contact, almost loses the car, but not quite. And at this stage, Dennis is just trying to recharge battery as he has just a little bit less to work with, but he has managed to recharge everything. And Mr. Pike's now playing the DRS games here. He does not want to be leading going to the last lap while leading the train. And yeah, Bekashish happily will go through and try to preserve that P2. Langro gets pushed off track again. Passive picks up a 3-second time penalty, which is really bad for his race because it's the last lap. But then his switchback, maybe?
Oh, he's fighting so hard with Mr. Pike as they're making their way down the long straight. But Picardchix does not have any DRS. Dennis Langrock will have some. He has quite a bit of battery to still go for a move. He's now pulled alongside. Mr. Pike is trying to go down the inside as he's going for a very late break. Can he outbrake Langrock though? Can he get a better exit there? It looks like he might have. It is a race win for Oliver Knott, but who comes through in second? It looks like it will be Mr. Pike after all with that front wing damage, and it's Langrock up into P3. Championship lead will remain, but what a drive after everything he had to endure there. Mr. Pike, first time on the podium, and it's 3 out of 3 race wins for Oliver Knott. But what a race have we seen, Sivadar?
Yeah, that is the best race of the season, by far. Absolute thrill. From the start of the race to the end of the race, we had us on the edge of our seats. Every single lap. It was brilliant.
Are currently watching the podium celebrations quickly. We see here as the times come, starting second on the grid and getting the race win. That is Oliver Knott, followed by Mr. Pike and Dennis Langrock. Then in fourth, it's Stephen Vassell, followed by Picardchix, Joel Lindstrom, Kevin West in seventh. Then it's Meow, Hazard, and Nicolino picking up some points. It's still some points for Meow, who does well at the end. Outside the points, we find Herman Polyakov with that time penalty. Alberto Barros in 12th. And the only man that did not finish was Istvan Tomasi. We're already hearing a couple of drivers complain about Mr. Pike. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be some reports sending his way. But to be fair, compared to the other races, maybe towards the end of the race we saw him defend a little bit more than he could. But throughout the race, he was doing quite well in my opinion.
Yeah, we see Mr. Pike in chat complaining, I'm not happy with how the racing on this game is. The DRS is life. Yeah. I mean, the DRS is just a bit too powerful. You have to play a DRS game, otherwise you're gonna get swallowed up. There's nothing you can do about it, and yeah. Unlucky. Funny that he says that he hates DRS games when he's the one playing the DRS game, but...
Yeah, Langrock just mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, he makes the race interesting, so we're not gonna complain, but yeah. Oliver Knott, though, the 3 out of 3 in Tier 4. Great race from him. I mean, to be fair, he did get a bit lucky, but hey, luck is a part of it.
Yeah, and the good news for him is that he slashes down the championship lead just a little bit. It was 51 points from him to Langrock. After this, if results stand as they are, that will be cut down to 41. So they've managed to close the gap onto Langrock just a little bit, and at least gives us some hope that the championship fight won't be decided next week out in Canada. But yeah, that little bit of fighting that happened there, started by Picardchik, really allowed Oliver not to get away. And once that happened, there was no holding him. But did you see that in the last lap, at the start of the last lap, the gap was 2.5 seconds, 2.8 maybe. At start-finish, the gap to P2, 5.8 seconds. It was Oliver Knott who gained 3 seconds on the bunch, and that's all because they were playing DRS games. That's how much they held up one another at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of game design. You can't do much about it. That's gonna happen every time when there's a DRS games. There's nothing you can do. No one wants to be leading because if you're leading the train on the last lap, you're automatically gonna lose a position. Basically, there's nothing you can do to kind of counteract that. Like everyone's using relatively the same wings, so yeah, but unlucky for Dennis Langrock. The wind just slipped away, slipped through his fingers. Oliver North did get a little bit lucky, but hey, 3 for 3 in tier 4. Next week in Canada, the championship will go to Canada and potentially Austria. Most likely, right? I
Well,
believe Oliver North gains 25, Lango gains 50, so he loses 10 points. That's still not enough to really change the championship, sadly. But
no, but at least at this point it is enough to push it to another fight. Let's hope at least Oliver Nod will be there next week, because otherwise it's pretty much done and dusted. All the other drivers not really close enough. Kevin West is losing a little bit of points. He was 57 behind. Takubi doesn't gain anything, so he loses 50 more. That's 73. Meow only gets 4 points tonight, so he's going to lose 11. That is 56 points that he will be behind. So realistically, unless Meow is going to have the recovery of a lifetime, it will realistically only be Oliver Knott who can still stop Dennis Langrock here tonight. I see a few drivers have already gone into the interview box. I think it will be quite a heated interview that we're going to see here tonight. But I think nonetheless we should still move on to some interviews. And I think it's only fair we start with a man in P3 and then move our way up. So let's move in Dennis Langrock first and let's go on to the interviews. So there we go, our championship leader, the man in P3 for tonight, perhaps hoping for a little bit more after that pole position, but a great race result nonetheless. He will keep his championship lead pretty much intact. It will move from 45 points to 41, but he's still the lead by quite a margin. Here he is, Dennis Langrock.
Hello.
how are you feeling after tonight?
I feel shit.
Yeah, I can tell.
That was unbelievable race. It was quite funny at the beginning, but then Mr. Pike, yeah, I don't want to say anything about it.
The stewards are gonna say more than enough.
Yeah, it's just take me the race win. I don't know why he's slowing down every single lap in Sector 2 and playing the S games like last lap,
He's
but
running higher wings than you.
yeah, that was also, yeah, he was quite lower wings. I was higher wings, so he was faster at straight, so yeah, was a crazy race.
Yeah, we saw in qualifying already, he lost about half a second on all of you guys in that final sector. That's how much his setup really did matter. We saw also in the final few laps, he collected a little bit of front wing damage after an incident he had with Pekarchik, where Pekarchik tried to get by him, but that didn't, that didn't work out in the end. But all the way through, I think you had a pretty good race. We, of course, had the safety car come in at maybe not the most of convenient points. You all went to the mediums. We thought it might be a little bit too much of a good thing, but it ended up that the mediums will be able to hold on.
Yeah, I was also thinking maybe the mediums are not gonna hold it to the end, so I was just taking a bit easier, not gonna fight too much and take it easier on the long ride, but yeah, it quite worked out, but tires were at the end still finished and yeah, was quite early safety car to be fair.
Yeah, just a little bit too early for your likings, I suppose. But qualifying all the way, that went well, and you had quite a margin onto Oliver Nutt as well there.
Yeah, qualifying was quite good, very good, and yeah, got pole position with I think 1/10 or 2/10, no 1/10, and yeah, was very good, and yeah.
Well, of course, you're going to remain the championship leader by quite a margin. If nothing changes in the results, it will be 41 points ahead of Oliver Nutt with 3 races to go. How are your thoughts, and how at least how are you feeling in regards to that championship fight?
Yeah, I'm feeling quite comfortable and confident. I think I will get this P2 because I think Mr. Pike will get so many penalties maybe, and also pushing me off track at the last corner. so I didn't got
Multiple
P2 at the
times, by
moment.
the way.
Yeah, I didn't count it. It was too much for me. I want to focus on racing, and I'm not counting this. Yeah, but he will get so pens, so I think it was P2. So, but quite unnecessary that I didn't fight it for P1. But yeah, it is what it is. We cannot change it.
All right. Any words from you, Jivodar? Any questions you have for Dennis?
Nothing really. I mean, another podium. Has he ever been outside the podium? No.
Only
That kinda
Vegas.
makes sense.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
killed
the
there.
only race that he got taken out.
Completely killed.
The only race he didn't finish on the podium was the race where he didn't finish.
Yep.
All right. Well, then thank you so much for the interview, Dennis Langrock, and hopefully we will see you in the weeks to come. And yeah, if you keep it up the way you've been doing so, you're well on your way to take the championship this season.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right, see ya.
Bye bye.
Then now it's time to move in the man that finished in P2, and that will be Mr. Pike. He's waiting for an interview. He's been waiting for an interview quite a while this season. He's been hoping to jump into the commentary box, and tonight he's finally going to get the opportunity to join us. So if you'd be so kind to move him in. There he is, Mr. Pike. He's finished P2 on the grid after what we can all say was a very eventful race around China.
Yeah, it was quite a chaotic race, but at the end, most of the guys went managed to get to the end.
That is definitely the case indeed. Now let's first go back to qualifying. We saw you had some pretty fast sector times in sector 1 and 2, and then you dropping about half a second to the likes of Langrod and Oliver Nutt, which cost you to drop a few positions. Was it due to a different setup, or was it just that much harder to manage the car in the final sector?
Yeah, first of all, I had 50-50 wings, and for the second thing, I was struggling in the last sector in the hairpin, and so like that.
All right. Well, still, nonetheless, you had a pretty good qualifying result. Then in the race, constantly in the mix to fight with other drivers. We saw that the drivers got past you in quite unusual spots, trying to get around you in turn 16, also trying to get past you either in turn 4 at the start of the second sector. Was that part of the plan, or were the other drivers just way too quick?
Yeah, it was just my plan, and tried to take the same thing every lap, and try to get to P2 before the back straight, and then maybe overtake and get back and overtake. Yeah, that was plan.
Yeah, and towards the end of the race, we saw you have an incident with Karchich, which saw you lose a front wing end plate. Can you explain in your words what happened?
Yeah, there was something kind of mistake I did in the defending, and then we had a huge fight. I think it was hard racing, but for me it was clean. And then this McLaren went outside and tried to get a better exit, and he snapped and killed me and went for me. It was unlucky, and it is racing, and I don't. It was not his fault.
All
It
right.
was, but it was not in purpose.
It was not on purpose, indeed. All right. Well, throughout the season, we've seen you finish within the points 2 times. The best result so far was last time round in Hungary with a 5th place. First time on the podium for now. I think you should be quite happy with that result.
Yeah, the race, like I just said, it was just going right on the plan, and I was before, I think, in the quali, and I got in the first lap to P2, and it was perfect, and I tried to hang out in the P2 as much as I can, and tried to follow the Dennis and Oliver the box, but then a safety car came out and I take the box on that time.
All right. Well, then let's move on to Žividar real quick. Any questions that you have for Mr. Pike?
Well, how many penalty points you reckon you get after tonight?
I don't know. There was, for me,
A relatively clean race from you.
I think there was not like crashes what I did, but there was the DRS games. I think that's the only, but don't know if someone can report me from that. Like I don't know how much penalty points I will get. We will see.
Maybe you'll get a race ban, but that's a bit too optimistic. You need 8 more for a race ban, which I don't think would happen
Yeah,
for Canada.
but the DRS games is not. I think it is allowed. I think.
Oh, yeah, it's allowed, but
Yeah.
you did
So
push Dennis off in the last corner, so you might get a penalty for that.
I think he was still on the track, and I tried to give he just enough room, but I need to watch that on my bow.
You're gonna have a different opinion after you
Yeah,
watch it. Okay.
Well, we're going to see what the stewards will say about that once that all the inquiries come through, and then by, of course, next race we will see what the what the confirmed results will be. At least for now, Mr. Pike, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. For now, congratulations on your P2,
Yeah.
and keep it up, and we might see you again later on this season in the commentary box.
Yeah, and hope I can host the next race. But yeah, bye.
All right, see you around. And then we just have one person left to interview, and that's the man that won it clean and square on track, keeping his 100% win rate intact with 3 races out of 3 participated that he won. It's once again a clean race win for Oliver Knott.
Thank you very much. Surprised I'm here, to be honest. But 3 for 3, so I cannot complain in the slightest. So, hello again.
Yeah, we saw already in qualifying you had some great pace out there. At least for qualifying, you had to give 1/10 onto Langrock. Do you think he was quicker in qualifying than you, or was there more in the tank?
Probably, but also as well, excuses. I went to the gym, did the leg a couple hours ago. So my leg just had a little twingle between the corners. That's my excuse for not getting pole. But no, I had decent pace defying quality considering I hate China. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know where everyone else was. I thought everyone was going to be closer, but then me and Dennis were just in the front by like 2-3 temps. So I can't complain with that at all.
Yeah, you had some good fights all the way through for pretty much the entirety of the race, which is also not something that we were expecting. Were you expecting the fighting to be this fierce?
Yes and no. I was expecting obviously a bit of TRS stuff, but I wasn't expecting the amount of DRS there was. I don't want to go on it too much, but what was happening was a bit stupid, to be honest. Yeah, there's not much else to say. I just feel like there's a long race. I don't know why DRS tactics needs to be happening so early on in the race. It's just silly.
Yeah, and then later on in the race, we had a little bit of a moment when Pikarczyk tried to overtake Mr. Pike that caused all the drivers to drop back a little bit. And after that, you managed to get a 1-second gap, and then you just never looked back and finished with 5.8 seconds up ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. What actually happened with
DRS games happened.
No,
Really?
I think what we could see is Pikarczyk tried to go for a move onto Mr. Pike, had a little bit of a snap oversteer as he tried to go on the power, on the curbs, went into Mr. Pike, caused front wing damage for the both of them, that caused all the drivers to pack up, lose a lot of speed through the fast sector, and you were able to pull away a little bit, and yeah, after that, the DRS games caused you to gain more and more time, but to be fair, at that point, the damage was already done, and you were gone.
Yeah, I know. I was just looking behind me, and then I said, "Oh my god, that was on the grass." I was like, "Oh my god, it's 1.2."
1.3, 1.4. So I was like, okay, I've got the win. And then I was 2 seconds ahead. So okay, they're not catching back up. And then it just kept on increasing and increasing every single braking zone. It was, yeah, it was a bit weird. I was like, what actually happened? How are they losing so much? So I got a really comfortable gap, just controlled it because I was struggling with the tire wear. I ended the race on 75% as well. So I got quite lucky that I didn't get a puncture, and I only just got into the puncture territory. So it was just managing that for the rest of the couple of laps, and yeah, that's literally it.
Well, that is quite the amount indeed. But nonetheless, you did get the race win here tonight, which means that with 75 points, you move up to second in the standings, despite only racing 3 out of 7 races, which is commendable at the very least. You're only behind Langrock, who was prior to this race at 101. If results stay as they are, he's going to move up 15 points to 116, means you'll be 41 points behind with 3 races to go. How do you see yourself in the championship fight? Do you see there any hope, or do you think that the gap is just a bit too much to overcome?
Too much. Canada is awful for me. I mean, Austria and Brazil, I think they'll be okay. I think I can probably be in the fight for the win again, but Canada is gonna have to. I'm gonna have a lot of luck on my side for any chance of points. I feel like, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy with P2 considering the amount of races I've done. I just wish I could have done more.
All right. Well, fair and square. Well, moving on to Givadar. Any questions from your end?
Nothing. Maybe you need to get a lottery ticket or something. You certainly did hit the lottery with luck
Yeah.
tonight.
Mhm.
Free win, you're gonna take it.
Yes,
Keeping
100%.
up the. Do you think you'll finish the season with a 100% win rate?
If I race Canada now.
Purposely missing out on chance for the championship so he keeps his 100% win rate. That is a tactic.
I don't know. I mean, I'll see. Maybe. Oh, I gotta go out somewhere. Nah, but I'll race. It's just I'm not gonna be near the front.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box tonight. Congratulations on your race win, your 3rd race win of the season, also meaning that you have the most race wins out of any drivers this season, just one ahead of Langrock. And yeah, hopefully we will see you in the weeks to come in the commentary box, and let's hope you do well next week, because otherwise the championship might be wrapped up by then.
Okay. Hopefully you DNFs or something.
All right, we'll see you around.
See ya. Bye.
All right, so that is it for our interviews tonight. We've had quite a thrilling race, and I think after the interviews that we've just had, there will definitely be quite some stewards' inquiries there. So that means for us there'll be a lot to talk next week when we get ready for the race in Canada. Just real quick from your end, Givadar, before we tune out, what are your thoughts on Canada?
I mean, if it rains, it'll be really interesting. I just drove Canada actually because I have a race there on Sunday. I like the circuit. You know, it's really difficult on track limits, so it'll be interesting to see, you know, what type of direction people go for, because having 35 laps that you have to risk getting a warning and then a 3-second time penalty every single lap twice. Like every corner you can basically just overstep over the curb, over the white line and get a warning. That's really, really hard to go the entire race without getting a 3 seconds. So we'll see who's able to manage that cleanly.
No, we're going to find out about that next week. For tonight, at least, thank you so much for joining us here in PC Tier 4. The races for Tier 3 and 2 are currently still ongoing here on YouTube, so definitely make sure to check that out. As for us, we will come back next week, Monday the 13th at 7 p.m. British Standard Time. That is, of course, 8 p.m. European time for the rest of you. And then we'll be there for round 8 in Canada, and then we'll find out if Langrock is already able to claim the title, or if Oliver Nutt is going to push him, at least to Austria. For tonight, thank you so much for tuning in. See you next week. Good night.